bow out under the gun. King 4 offsuit. And it's mystery hand time yet again. Dimitar Danchev this time will have his holding absconded.
Back in the mystery house, you know, these hands are always very tricky.
Well, not so tricky perhaps are 2-10s for David Yan. We saw him 3-bet and take with the 8s moments ago. This time, though, he's going to flat it from the cutoff.
And that's due to the stack size of the opener. Danchev with a massive near million chip stack, not looking to inflate pots.
It's a raise, right?
Yeah.
Heads up.
$80,000 in the middle.
I love a good mystery hand, and that is exactly what we have today. Danchev raises it up off of 924,000, playing 6,000, 12,000 in the Triton Poker main event under the gun +2 with a mystery hand. Over round to David Yan in the cutoff with pocket 10s. He opts to call. This is an excellent spot to just call, especially when the initial raiser should be kind of tight. You may opt to 3-bet a decent amount of the time in this situation, but calling with 10s, 9s, 8s, etc. is perfectly reasonable. He opts to call. Let's go to the flop.
As neither blind came along, despite reasonably attractive pricing at this 6 and 12K level. Queen 10-8 middle set here for David. This is a delight.
I'm doing backflips if I'm David Yan.
Oh, yeah. At least for the time being. Granted, the board is somewhat coordinated.
Sure. Especially when it gets checked over to you, you get to set the price. The more coordinated the board and deeper stacks, the more likely you go for larger sizings. He keeps it small, 25K into 80.
Danchev deferring post-flop despite being the opener and playing it as a check call. So the pot grows to 130,000.
Flop comes Queen 10-8, which is an excellent flop for David. Danchev opts to check. You may be surprised to see a check in this situation because this flop should be pretty good for the initial raiser, but it should also be pretty good for the caller, who's going to have a whole lot of decent, strong, high card hands like ace queen, king queen, queen jack suited, jack 10 suited, king jack suited, maybe even jack 9 suited if he's getting splashy, etc., etc., etc. So this is a spot where you are going to want to check some portion of the time. David, with his set, certainly wants to bet. The pot is 80,000, and he goes for a small size. I think you'd prefer to go a little bit bigger in general, just because Danchev either has nothing that's going to fold to any bet, like ace 5 suited or something like that, or he's going to have some sort of pair or draw. And a pair or draw is going to call any reasonable amount. So this is a situation where when stacks are somewhat deep, I think you want to go ahead and bet a little bit large. He goes 25. I think something like 40 or 50 would potentially be just a little bit better so that David could then get more money in on the turn and river. This time, though, he does go 25 and gets just called. Let's head to the turn.
Now an ace on the turn is actually a very attractive development for David, who could very well see a line like this being tethered to the ace X's.
Yeah, Danchev could even have like ace queen still, ace king, ace jack, ace 8. Plenty of hands that David Yan can still get more value from. Sure, king jack did get there. Pocket aces might play passively, but there's plenty of more hands that Yan beats. $100 into 130.
Things are getting a little more expensive now for Danchev. Calls once more. Pot up to 330,000 now.
The turn is the ace of diamonds. Danchev checks again, and David again goes for a bet. This time 100,000 into the 130,000 pot. And I like this slightly larger bet size at this point because now Danchev has to have some sort of pair and or draw, and usually it would be a pair with a draw, and against pairs with draws, you don't mind giving them a bad price. Plus, any pair and draw is not going to fold to any reasonable bet at this situation. So, when you bet the turn in this spot, do not get tricky and bet small or think, oh, I want to really try to get called by a weak hand and bet small. You're trying to get full value at this point from an ace or a queen or some sort of draw. Yeah, you could be beat by the random king, jack, or jack nine, but that's pretty unlikely. Bet and get money in the pot. He gets called. Let's head to the river.
And the board pair's on the river, so 10's full for David Jan. As played, this very much feels like David can target the whole range of ace-x. And at this point, any straights as well. I don't think that's what's lurking for Danchev.
But just in case he was up against the straight, of course, you welcome the 8. Go for a lot of value against ace-queen, ace-king. Suppose ace-10 is possible as well. Even like ace-8. You know, that's a hand that would be huge trouble.
$253.
North of full pot? No, 253, not 353, but still very healthy out of David, who took his time here before coming up with this number. And now for Danchev, what do you think he's got, chat?
The river is the 8 of clubs, giving David a boat. He's loving life. Danchev checks. David opts to go for a decently large size. Into the 330,000 pot, he goes 253,000. I think the size is fine, reasonable, good. I would probably go just a little bit bigger again because you're going to get called by an ace and you want to get a lot of money in the pot against an ace. That said, he goes 253, maybe thinking Danchev's range is a little bit weaker than a lot of ace-x or strong queens. So if you're trying to get called by a weaker range, perhaps this size becomes much better. Let's see what Danchev's does.
He raised it pre to 25,000, then check called 25K on the flop. Check called 100K on the turn, and now faces 253 on this river.
Yeah, the way this board is developed, Jan doesn't have that many bluffs. So curious to see how Danchev continues. Ow.
Wow, he check jams. Now this is slightly awkward. Does he ever have queens full or aces full here? Obviously, that's the story he's telling David Jan. And this is a horrific feeling in the pit of Jan's stomach now.
Danchev gives it some thought before ripping it all in. David has a full house, but he's facing about the strongest line you can face. Check, call, check, bet, all in. What I want to know is, what do you think Danchev has? Take a second, think about it, and let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, click the like and subscribe button for me, please.
Wow, how sick is this? $1 million apiece? I think Danchev, if he's got it, he's got pocket aces. That's my guess. Danchev should never be doing this with King Jack, I would think. So let's take out worst value. Don't feel like the only worst value is like ace 8.
How much is it?
Might still jam, to be honest. Yeah, the problem for David is maybe Danchev's not bluffing here too often. But is he doing a worse value? And I think it is possible with this run out. Ace 8, 10 8. You know, these are worse full houses.
A few moments later.
I think the main problem here is that he beats a little bit of value. And that's a disaster if you fold against that.
The call is made. And
Queens.
pocket queens get shown. Set over set. What an absolute nightmare for David Yan. The only good news is that he covered.
Sorry,
The bad news is he's left with just 220,000 as we sat back and we let that one play out organically.
After a bit of thought, David finds the call. I certainly don't fault him. I would have snap called and said, if you have it, you have it. And it turns out this time, Danchev has it. Top set, David was doomed, and he gets stacked. I'll talk to you next time.